Hello, this is a quick overview of my Hitreact Animation Pack. First and foremost, there are over 100 animations in this pack, most of them being actual hit reacts. And the hit reacts are broken up based on intensity, body part, and direction. So body parts can be left arm, right arm, left leg, right leg, chest, gut, and head. Directions are front, left, back, and right. And the intensities are broken down by heavy, knockdown, medium, slam down, stagger, stumble, trip, and flinch. The system itself is pretty straightforward. It's mostly an example. You can definitely use it in your project as a plug and play and then kind of build upon it. And there are certain places where I would suggest building upon based on the kind of thing you're making, based on your project. But I'll show you how I've implemented it. So here on my blueprint character here, I have my component. So on your character that wants to be playing hit reacts, they will need this component. And it's pretty straightforward. You have just this function that you want to trigger whenever you want your actor to do a hit react. And you can see there's a couple of variables that get piped in to here. How I have these variables set up, the hit react type and the impact direction are coming from anim notifies that live on the attack montage. So the attacks, incoming attacks, will dictate the hit react type and the impact direction, and you might change that based on your project. I just had that set up here as an example. And the bone name is the name of the bone that got hit. And I just do an attack trace on the montage as well. Now for the component itself, this is that function, the try do hit react. What goes on in here is I'm detecting the body part that got hit, and the body part is mapped to this physics asset here. So the attack trace is checking for physics bodies, and it returns one of these physics bodies, and then I map it basically to a enum here, and then I use that enum to evaluate a chooser table later. I also determine the angle, so the angle is the damage causer's location compared to the forward vector of the hit actor, and then I also cross-reference that with the impact direction. So for instance, if you're doing like a hook like this, for example, where the impact direction actually is coming from the right to the left, so it's a leftward impact direction, will actually change the hit react playing, right? So I wouldn't play just a forward hit react. It actually will play a hit react going to the left compared to the forward vector of the attacker. So I do all that in here. After that, we just check for what kind of hit react type it is, if it's a flinch or not. If it's a flinch, easy, play a flinch. And the flinch is fairly simple. I'll go over the animation graph in a bit, but basically I'm just linking in an LAG, a linked animation graph, evaluating the chooser to choose their correct animation, and then I have a fallback timer to unlink the lag, and I'll go over that in a second again, like I mentioned. Now the BPC here really shouldn't have authority on stun states. You should have that either in your game state or your character state, whatever's managing your character states. I would highly suggest putting this type of stuff here, and the blueprint component can mostly handle which animations to play and then playing the animation, rather than keeping track of if they're stunned or not. I just did this for the sake of setting up an example, but I check for stunned, and then if they are stunned, I don't want to play another full body hit react. That just looks funky, so I force it to do a flinch no matter what hit react type it is, just to do a flinch if they're already downed. And they could be stunned. Stunned is either downed on their knees, prone, or supine, and I'll go over that later. And if they're not down, then go ahead and do the full body react. And the full body react is similar to the flinch, where I evaluate the chooser, and then I create a montage at runtime based off of whatever comes out, whatever the result of the chooser table is. Create a montage. play the montage, and then send the data to the animation blueprint. And the animation blueprint is mostly just concerned about if they're getting sent into a stunned state. So again, this is something you would probably change for your project. How you're communicating to your animation blueprint based off of character state shouldn't really be handled by the blueprint component. That should be whatever your game state is, whatever character state is, might handle this part. Now, as for the chooser table, it's pretty straightforward. There's just one master chooser table for all of the hit reacts, and they're broken down into other nested chooser tables. What I'm looking at here is hit react type and loco state. So loco state is either standing, downed, prone, or supine. And if they're ever at any point downed, prone, or supine, then we're just doing specific downed flinches, or I don't want to play regular standing flinches. Those just look funky, so I have custom down flinches for when they're stunned. And for me, I just have stunned as either if they're downed, prone, or supine. So that's just the general stunned state. Beyond that, each state breaks it up into body part, or rather, sorry, each hit react type breaks it up into body part and hit direction. So we have arm left from the back, arm left from the front, and I include none here in case nothing gets set accidentally, so there's some type of default here. Like a body part gets set, but the hit reaction or hit direction does not get set, so we have something playing. Now, the animation graph is pretty straightforward, and you might recognize this from the combat variant sample project that Unreal gives you, because this is kind of taking a little bit from there. It's just the locomotion state and some of the main states, for instance. But the locomotion state is just the typical idle versus walk and run. And the main states, the only thing I've modified here is to include a stun state. Now, the stun state in the animation graph is just handling the loops. There's no root motion involved in here. The act of getting put into a stun state, so they hit reactions into the stun state, and then the get-ups are handled via montage, because they have root motion attached to them. You'll also notice that I have a linked animation graph node here. Like I mentioned previously, this is how I add the additive stuff in here. So the LAG for the flinch is set up similarly to a template graph, where I have an empty variable that just gets applied additively. The chooser table will fill in this as it needs to, and that gets linked in and then unlinked here. The reason I have this set as an LAG is because honestly, a lot of the times you're going to be changing your flinches based off of posing. Like if you have a two-handed weapon versus unarmed, your flinches are going to look different. So it's just easier to have them separate at different LAGs. You don't have to load everything in here. In the base graph, you can just do it through a gameplay ability or whatever you want to do in your project, and you can link in different graphs or different chooser tables or whatever you want to do at runtime. It just keeps things simple. Now, how I have my attacks set up here as an example, I have a couple of animation notifies that I'll go over. The first one here is the on the attack. I have, during the actual hit, or whenever I want the hit frame to happen, I set a couple of things. I set the bone that's doing the damage. And this is what's going to happen here is a trace is going to happen on the bone on that frame. And it will get the nearest physics asset, and that will trigger which body part gets hit. I also set the type of hit react I want to occur based off of the attack, and then I have my impact direction. Now, you might change this a little bit as well based off of your project. You might not want to have the attacks driving. Maybe your attacks build up over time, maybe they're meter based or whatever, but you could do the same thing here where you have a variable, maybe it's numerical, and you just want the number to go up and it ramps up the hit react severity. This is just an example of how I might set it up. Now the other anim notifies I have here is end animation, and these exist purely on the flinches. And what I'm doing here is at the end of the flinch, I have this notify play, and that will automatically unlink the lag. Right, so let's go over here. So I have end animation over here, and that will unlink the lag, so the lag is just not always living on this APB. Now in my BPC here, I have at the end I have this timer like I mentioned, and this is purely because anim notifies are not 100% foolproof. They will sometimes fall. So I have just a default flinch timeout here of almost a second, and after almost a second I just unlink that additive lag because sometimes that notify won't always trigger, and this is just a fallback, right? Now how I set up my example stun state, in my check for stunned, I check for there's specific types of hit reacts that will cause them to get sent into a downed or stunned state. Those are stagger, knockdown, slam down, and trip. Those will all cause them to be removed from their feet. Stagger will send them into a down state. So I check if they're staggered and if they're already downed. If not, then send them into a stun state. And same with the other ones. If the hit react type is one of these, and then I check for if they are already prone or supine, and if not, then go ahead and send them there. And this stun stuff is pretty simple. I start a timer, and again, this is something you'll tune based on your game. I wouldn't have this living here, but I have just a default timer of 3 seconds that they're stunned for, and after those 3 seconds, they just automatically get up, and the get up plays a montage based on their loco state. So if they're prone, then do the prone get up. If they're down, do the get down get up. Now here I can show you what I mean when I was talking earlier about how the attacks have different impact directions versus hit react direction. So the hit react direction is specifically just talking about getting hit from the front, doing a frontwards react, doing a backwards react, doing a left react. An impact direction can change that. So if you get a left hook or a right hook from the back of the head, it will cause them to move forward relative to their position, right? So I can show you what I mean here. Doing a punch, 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 right? So that last one, that left hook, came in and swung coming from the left to the right, caused him to move the same direction, right? It responded to that attack. That's why I have the impact direction set up that way. So if I did that same thing from the front, he's going to move to the direction that the swing is always moving. So it just feels, you can feel it, it feels a little bit more responsive, right? It feels like he's actually responding to my hit. Lastly, let me show you how these flinches are working. I have a pretty makeshift aiming setup here where I just trace from the camera to the center here. And I can shoot basically to trigger the different body parts. So if I go to the left here, I can do like a left react. These are all flinches. I can go back here, do like a back react. Left reacts. I also expose the flinch strength variable on the blueprint component so you can change how strong the flinches are. So if you have like a big guy, the flinches aren't as strong. They would look a little janky, or just like they would just look a little too much. It would be too much movement if the flinches played the same intensity on like a really big character. So you could play with that however you want. If they're doing like smaller amounts of damage, they could do like a smaller flinch. It's up to you, really. And that's really just here on, if I select the actor here, and I go to the blueprint component, I can set my flinch strength to whatever I want. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I hope the pack is helpful. I plan to update this pack, and I plan on making lots more animation packs that are compatible with each other, that play well with each other. So if you have any questions, any suggestions, any feedback, please go ahead and contact me. You can contact me on YouTube here. You can contact me on my Discord channel. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.